In this DIY tutorial, I'm going to show you how I made this dog Squishy Mishy. It was totally inspired by the typical Squishmallows I like to sew, but this is kind of like my own version of it. Super cute, super adorable with this Sherpa fleece. So here's the size of the large one, about 14 across and 13 high, and these are the bottom measurements. And when you download the patterns, you get a large Squishmallow, or I should say Squishy Mishy, and then you even get a small pattern. So the one I just showed you before, that's the large one. And in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to put together the large one, but if you decide to make the small one, it's the same exact steps. So anyway, download that printable pattern and let's get started. So I'm going to put together the large Squishy Mishy, and I've already gone ahead and taped and cut out all my pieces. And for here, you just have to cut around to get that belly out. So you're going to cut on the dotted line and check out all of the different nose and mouths. I know I'm going to make you make a lot of decisions here. So I have about a half a yard of the Sherpa fleece and a little bit of leftover faux fur and some white fleece. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out on the wrong side of the Sherpa fleece, the back and the front of the dog. You can go ahead and do it any way that best suits you, but I like to, when I work with plush, to just trace and remove the pattern out of the way. Loving this DIY tutorial? Please subscribe so you can stay up to date with all my videos and you'll get the notification when I come out with a new plushie video. Right up there on the top right of the screen, I added the link to make it easy for you. And now I'm going to cut out the front body of the dog the same way, making sure that I cut out the belly area as well. And I'm going to make sure to mark or cut my fabric wherever I have my little marks there, because those are just my matching points for when I put together my dog. Now that I have all the pieces for my dog Squishy Mishy cut out, I have my front body cut out with the markings there on the belly area. I have the back body cut out, the belly, the bottom of the dog, again with the markings cut out, the tail, the 2 pieces there, and of course the Squishy Mishy ears, the 4 pieces. And then this, I'm just going to put this aside for the nose and the mouth because we'll decide that later. So now I'm going to attach the belly to the front of the dog, and this is why you need those little marks there. I'm going to make sure the front sides are both facing the same way, and I'm going to start by pinning at my markings first. And then I'll pin all the way around. And now I'm going to go over to my sewing machine, and with about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm going to sew all around this with about a 4 stitch length. I'm so sorry, I think my camera's wobbling a little, but you get what I'm doing. All right, looking cute so far. So the next thing I'm going to do is sew together the ears. I'm going to put the plush right sides together, and then I'm just going to sew around again, sort of creating like a pouch with the opening on the top. And at the top, I am going to backstitch right there. And then when I make my way all the way around, I'm going to backstitch again. These look adorable. All I have to do is turn them right side out. Now I'm going to sew the front and back of my Squishy Mishy together. And this time, unlike my other Squishmallow tutorials, I'm not going to sew the darts closed. So I'm just going to sew on the edges here, leaving the darts open. So I'm going to pin it, and again, over at my sewing machine, use about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So this is what it's looking like so far with the darts left open. And now I just want to show you how the ears are going to work. It's actually really simple. I'm going to stick it in from the top here and just hold it down, and we're going to have them going sideways like this. So keeping it just in place like that, I'm going to just pin the darts closed, making sure that the seams match. And I like to make the edge of the ear stick out a little. And with my other ear in place, I'm just going to go over to the sewing machine and sew right across these darts, back stitching on the ends. I know, it's looking so adorable so far with these especially cute ears. Anyway, I'm going to now put on the bottom of my doggy Squishy Mishy. So I turned the Squishy Mishy wrong side out, and again, I'm going to use the little cut marks on the bottom piece to match my side seams. And I like to pin those areas first. And before I continue pinning the rest on, I'm going to sew together the tail. Before, I honestly almost forgot. So I'm going to take the tail, right sides together. I'm going to sew around it, leaving the top open. And there we go. I'm just going to turn it right side out, and always with my chopstick, I always work with that, I'm going to push out the very tip of the tail. I'm going to give it a little stuffing. It kind of doesn't need it, but I guess I want it to stand up. So I'm putting a little stuffing in there. And then I'm going to place it inside the Squishmallow, making sure that it's pointing the body. And I'll show you exactly what I mean. So I'm going to put it in, making sure it's the back, and the tip of the tail, I want it pointing the back of the body so that it's the correct way when I turn around my Squishy Mishy. And what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to leave my opening in the front, because you really can't see it with this awesome Sherpa fleece. And I'm going to give it a little marking with my pencil to remind me not to sew that area there. And I'm going to go around and sew on the sewing machine with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, again using about a 4-inch stitch length. And there goes my camera again wobbling, guys. I'm so sorry. Just ignore that. And now you guessed it, for the best part, stuffing this adorable dog Squishy Mishy. So I have it to a point I like, so what I'm going to do now, using a double threaded needle with coordinating thread, I'm just going to give it a quick, sort of like, I don't want to say it's an invisible stitch, and it's sort of like a ladder stitch. Anyway, this is so forgiving, this Sherpa fleece, so even if you're not great at hand stitching, it does really hide it well, whatever kind of stitch you do. And if it doesn't hide it in any case, then you could just take a hairbrush and brush over the opening, and it's really hidden well then. So for the most challenging part, it's making the decisions, and I purposely gave you all these noses and different options just so that you can give your dog Squishy Mishy any personality you want. And you can see just by me moving these eyes around, the dog looks different. It's always cute, but just different. So I'm going to pin the large nose in place, and I'm going to use a back stitch here to just go around my felt nose and sew it in place. You can embroider it instead if you want, but I like to use the felt because it's quicker and easier. And when you sew it on really well, it really doesn't go anywhere. It stays in place quite well. And I've attached the eyes the same exact way as I did with the nose. So now what I'm going to do is, using the running stitch again, is I'm going to embroider the mouth detail. And I am using an embroidery needle with embroidery floss. So like I always tell my students, you're the designer here, and so am I for this dog. So I'm going to give this dog a few little freckles on each side of his nose here. So I made a simple stitch, and I'm going to double knot the thread and then just kind of cut it off. It's kind of simple. If you have a different way of embroidering anything you want on the face, go ahead and go for it. And that's it, guys. That's how I made this adorable dog Squishy Mishy. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you found it helpful and super easy to make your own. Anyway, if you really love tutorials like this where you can learn how to make plushies, definitely check out my other Squishmallow tutorials right up here on the screen. Thanks for watching.